Before we get started, let's give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakadash. That's Yahweh being the true name of the Heavenly Father in Hebrew, Yahweh Shai being the true name of our Lord and Savior, and Rakakadash being the Holy Spirit. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone for bringing us His truth. Honors to all the brothers pushing His truth, risking their life and freedom to do so. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the one third of our people that's going to return back to the Lord, so that He will have mercy on them in this time of judgment. So we back here for Real Talk number 6. So sort of a little weekly pep talk to get our minds prepared for what's coming, because it's going to be the ultimate mental game. There's going to be nothing physical, because physically we're not going to be able to do nothing or get ourselves out of the situations we're going to be in. But it's all going to be mental. So mentally, the Lord is going to move us a certain way. And ultimately, by the Spirit of the Lord, we'll be preserved. But a summary and a recap of Real Talk 5, which was titled that it's going to be illegal to serve Yahweh Shai. So it's going to be illegal to serve Him, to praise Him, and on all levels. So, quick summary, with Jeremiah and many other prophets, he was thrown in prison for prophesying the Lord's judgment, for speaking what the Lord told him. And that's what we're doing. So eventually, they're going to throw us in jail in these FEMA death camps for the same thing. So us going out teaching in public, we're not going to be able to do that no more. Us going out and speaking and uploading videos on the internet, we're not going to be able to do that no more either. So it's going to be illegal to prophesy in His name. And Daniel, when he was through in the lion's den for praying to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, we're not going to even be able to pray to Him. They're going to say, hey, if you pray to this name, you're a terrorist. You're a threat to public safety. And they're going to throw us in prison in these FEMA death camps. So if he praise the name of the Lord, either in a YouTube comment or in a text message, or just out in public and somebody hear us, hey, they're going to throw us in prison eventually. That's why I said it's going to be illegal to praise the Lord and to serve Him. And then who else? The 3 Hebrew children. They got thrown in the fiery furnace. They was just being faithful to the Lord. They didn't praise Him, or they wasn't prophesying. They told Nebuchadnezzar, we're not going to worship your golden statue. And whether the Lord save us from the fiery furnace or He don't save us from the fiery furnace, either way, we're not going to worship your golden statue. That was an example of people staying faithful to the Lord. So even if we stay faithful, hey, they still going to try to kill us and exterminate us. And what happened with the 3 Hebrew children, that's going to come again with this stuff here that we see on the screen. With this liquid that they trying to require for everything, and with the MOB, the microchip, just out of staying faithful, we're going to say, hey, we're not going to get this mess, and we're not going to get it because we stand faithful to the Lord. But us staying faithful, that's going to cause us to be thrown in prison and cause us to get, probably put to death without even saying the name of the Lord. So on all levels, it's going to be illegal to have any association with the name Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. But for that, we come into this time of trouble that never was since the beginning of time. And that's Daniel 12:1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince would stand up for the children of thy people. And it shall be a time of trouble, such as never was, since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people, the children of Israel, shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book. So the only people named who could be found written in this book is the children of Israel. That's why when we go up, it reads, Michael, stand up, the great prince would stand up for the children of thy people, the children of Israel, not everybody in the world. At this time of trouble that we come into is a time of trouble such as never was before. And that's Jeremiah 30:7. Allows for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble. So this time of Jacob's trouble is a day so great that no other day is like it, that no other point in history is like this day, because it's a time of trouble such as never was before, but he shall be saved out of it. And that's the remnant. Matthew 24 and 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be. So this Jacob's trouble, it's a time of tribulation so great that there wasn't a time of trouble like this since the beginning of the world till now, nor will there ever be a time of trouble this great again. So nothing in the past or nothing in the future will ever be able to stand up and compare to the time of trouble that we're coming into. And we always gonna open up with those three scriptures just to remind people what time it is. While everybody out living their best life, not concerned with what's being stirred up, they gonna be taken by surprise. But hey, we not gonna break. We gonna be ready. So I got a lot of scriptures we want to cover today. So last week again, we ended off that it'd be illegal to praise and serve Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. We're going to show now that these heathen nations and what's today, especially the Edomites, the white man, they are so damn nosy. And we're going to show this in the scriptures. Anytime we went into captivity under somebody, the people we was in captivity under and other nations, that saw us going to captivity, they was always nosy as hell, trying to sabotage everything we do, trying to come up against everything we do. And we're going to show this in the scriptures because the same stuff that happened then is happening now. And this has been on my spirit because I've been dealing with a lot of stuff with Edomites at work, which I'll get into some of it as we read. But first, we're going to hit Ezra chapter 4. We're going to get this whole chapter. Now, when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard that the children of their captivity builded the temple unto Yahweh, God of Israel, they came to Zerubbabel and to the chief of the fathers and said unto them, Let us build with you, for we seek your God as ye do, and we do sacrifices unto him since the days of the king of Assur, which brought us up hither. So adversaries is another word for enemy. So when our enemies, the other nations, when they heard that us and our people was rebuilding the temple that Babylon destroyed, they came and said, Let us build with you, for we seek your God as you do. But Zerubbabel and Joshua and the rest of the chief of the fathers of Israel said unto them, Ye have nothing to do with us to build a house unto our God. Hey, we see that a lot in society. Every time, we doing something for ourselves, white people trying to come be a part of it. Like if they see us, building something or opening up a new establishment, they want to try to be a part of it, really just to see what's going on, especially if it's all black people, all colored people in there. They just want to see what the colored people got going on, what the Negroes got going on. Let me apply up just to see what's going on. And they was on the same thing back then. And then ultimately, they like to do that to try to get the secrets on what you're doing and try to see how they could either sabotage you or overthrow you. But what did they say? Ye have nothing to do with us to build a house unto our God, but we ourselves together will build unto the Lord God of Israel, as King Cyrus, the king of Persia, hath commanded. So they told them, you got nothing to do with this, but we're going to do as the king commanded. And then the people of the land weakened the hands of the people of Judah and troubled them in building and hired counselors against them to frustrate their purpose all the days of Cyrus, king of Persia, even until the reign of Darius, king of Persia. So they hired people to frustrate them, to distract them, to come up against everything they was doing. And white people would do that. They see we got an establishment, they send some of their little flunkies to come up in there and stir up trouble, to try to get us in trouble so they can call the cops, or so they can make us lose customers, or they can, give our business a bad name, or make us look bad. And they go bash us on the news, bash us on Facebook. Yeah, a lot of times they just send their flunkies in just for that reason, and that's what we see here. And the people of the land weakened the hands of the people of Judah and troubled them in building. So, they just trying to work and do their own business like we be trying to do. and hired counselors against them to frustrate their purpose. And people saying all kind of people up in our stuff to try to frustrate what we doing. And in the reign of King Asarius, in the beginning of his reign, wrote they unto him an accusation against the inhabitants of Judah and Jerusalem. So in this king of Asarius, they, being the other nations who frustrated us building the temple, they wrote a letter to this king accusing us. Now let's see what's in his letter. And in the days of Artaxerxes, wrote Bishnam and these other people and the rest of their companions unto Artaxerxes, king of Persia, and the writing of the letter was written in the Syrian tongue and interpreted in the Syrian tongue. Rehum the chancellor and Shimshai the scribe wrote a letter against Jerusalem to Artaxerxes, the king, in this sort. Then wrote Rehum the chancellor and Shimshai the scribe and the rest of their companions, the Danites, all these people, Aphrasites, the Atravites, the Babylonians, the Elamites, and the rest of the nations whom the great and noble Asnapar brought over and set in the cities of Samaria, and the rest are on the side of the river, and at such a time. So all these people, all these different nations of people, wrote a letter to King Artaxerxes accusing the inhabitants of Judah and Jerusalem. So you can see what this accusation was. This is the copy of the letter that they sent unto him, even unto Artaxerxes, the king. Thy servants, the men on this side of the river, and at such a time, be it known unto the king, that the Jews which came up from thee to us are coming to Jerusalem, building the rebellious and the bad city. So these damn devils, they told the king that the Jews rebuilding Jerusalem, which is a rebellious and a bad city. And we see this a lot of time with Edomites and these other people. They write letters to the governor to try to jack up what we got going on. Like, for example, I like this restaurant in Houston. It's called the Turkey Leg Hut. It's a black-owned business, and the restaurant is so popping, they got valet parking just because it could be super hard to find a parking spot sometime. And then the street that they own, the whole strip, it don't be blocked off, but the whole street be jumping, and everybody that you see parked going to Turkey Leg Hut. Now they started from the ground, and they made Turkey Leg Hut like a multi-million-dollar, restaurant business deal or whatever. So all these white people, they wrote a letter to the governor of Houston, and they tried to get Turkey Leg Hut shut down. And what was the accusation? Oh, there's always cars there. It's always busy, and they smoke turkey legs. So another accusation was, oh, we always smell smoked turkey legs in the air. Just a bunch of BS. And, try to get these people shut down because first it's a black-owned business. Everybody that work in there black. They thriving. So, you know what I'm saying? And these Edomites was really just hating. And Turkey Leg Hut famous. They known worldwide. Nationwide. People from all over the world go there. And it's some of the best food I ever had. And many other people will say the same thing. So the Edomites really just jealous of them. And through all that stuff they said, they didn't have really one bad thing to say about it. Like, who wouldn't want to go outside and smell the smell of smoked turkey legs in the air? I would never mind that. And Edomites really just, that's how they do. And, by the power of the Lord, Turkey Leg Hut's still open and they still booming. So we'll see what the Edomites come up with next. But same thing here. Now let's continue. Be it known unto the king that the Jews which came up from thee to us are coming to Jerusalem, building the rebellious and the bad city, and have set up the walls thereof and joined the foundations. Now, we all know Jerusalem is a holy city. It wasn't rebellious or bad. So these other nations, they really just full of BS. Be it known now unto the king that if this city be builded and the walls be set up again, then they will not pay toll, tribute, and custom. And so thou shalt and damage the revenue of the kings. So these other nations said that they rebuild Jerusalem, they pretty much not gonna pay taxes and pay tribute and all this stuff that they owe the king. So that's pretty much like Edomites today. They say, hey, with this business here is gonna take away from the community, or all the money is gonna be brought to this part, or a turkey that cut is gonna take away from other businesses in the surrounding area. And they're gonna launder the money. They're not gonna pay their property taxes. They're not gonna pay their other taxes, and there's any kind of BS they can come up with. They can come up with a well thought out accusation, and that's what we see now. And that's really what we see all throughout American society. Every time you got something going on, people want to go write the governor and say, hey, if you let the Negroes do this, this and this going to happen. It's going to bring violence. It's going to bring ghetto and noise. Really just a bunch of BS. Now, because we have maintenance from the king's palace, and it was not meet for us to see the king's dishonor, therefore have we sent and certified the king, that search may be made in the book of records of thy fathers. So shalt thou find in the book of the records, and know that the city is a rebellious city, and hurtful unto kings of provinces, and that they have moved sedition within the same of old time, for which cause was the city destroyed. So these other nations told the king, hey, go look in the record books, and you're going to see that this was a rebellious city, and it was moved with sedition, meaning they rose up and pretty much rebelled against the governments at that time. Let's continue. We certified the king that if this city be builded up again, and the walls thereof be set up, by this means thou shalt have no portion on this side of the river. So pretty much telling the king, if they let Jerusalem be built up and let it be its own functioning city, that the Jews will cease control of Jerusalem. And that's pretty much what they say about us. Well, if you let the Negroes build their businesses over here, they're going to take over the city, or they're going to take control of this side of town. So they like to frustrate what we're doing so we can't come up. And a lot of times we don't even be trying to take over nothing. We just be trying to function and provide a source of income for ourselves. Then anytime we try to do something good for ourselves, everybody else hate it. And that's what the nations was doing to the Jews here. And really all they was trying to do was rebuild Jerusalem to come back to the Lord so they can praise him, make offerings and sacrifices, worship in the temple, keep the Passover, and keep the holy days. That's already what they was trying to do. And let's continue. Then said the king an answer unto Rehum the chancellor, and to Shimshai the scribe, and to the rest of their companions that dwell in Samaria, and to the rest beyond the river, peace and at such a time. The letter which ye sent to us have been plainly read before me, and I commanded the search have been made, and it is found that this city of all time have made insurrection against kings, and that rebellion and sedition have been made therein. There have been mighty kings also over Jerusalem, which have ruled over all countries beyond the river. Yeah, because Jerusalem, time of King David and King Solomon, we ruled over all people on the earth. And toll and tribute and custom was paid unto them. Give ye now commandment to cause these men to cease, and that the city be not builded until another commandment shall be given from me. So the king answered Rehum and pretty much said he did the search and saw that Jerusalem, rebelled against kings pretty much and ruled the world at one time, and that everybody used to pay toll and tribute to them. Now, he said he gave Rehum the commandment, the order to cause the men to stop building the city, to stop rebuilding Jerusalem, until further notice. Now we continue, and sometimes we see this in real life. The government or anybody else, they fall for what the white people saying, and they'll come up against our businesses, stop us from doing what we doing. Even if you're doing something in public, like, selling dinner plates, they say, hey, the Negroes are selling dinner plates over there. It's going to bring violence, and it's going to take away from restaurants in the surrounding area. So it's going to take money from the city and it's going to keep it for themselves and do bad stuff with it. So we should, shut down a shop over there. Just dumb stuff. And if you continue, take heed now that ye fail not to do this, why should damage grow to hurt of the kings? Now, when a copy of the king Artaxerxes' letter was read before Rehum and Shimshai, the scribe, and their companions, they went up in haste to Jerusalem and to the Jews. Because remember, the king said, give ye now commandment to cause these men to cease, meaning to stop, rebuilding the city. So they went to the Jews in haste, meaning they went up there in the quickness and made them to cease by force and power, meaning they took the military up there to stop what they was doing. And that's what these Edomites usually do. If we selling dinners, or we got a fundraiser outside, we at the park, we in a public place, we in our own community, like the Jews was, we minding our own business. Some white people see something, they can't come have a civilized conversation. They got to call the armed forces on us. And that's usually what you see. You see like the gang task force unit, and you see like the captains of the police. They come in body armor and stuff. They come squatted up in so many cars. Like, bro, we just having a fundraiser, or just trying to do something for ourselves. Like, why y'all come at us like this? And we see that a lot today. Then ceased the work of the house of God, which is at Jerusalem. So it ceased until the second year of the reign of Darius, king of Persia. Now, King Artaxerxes, he ordered that the rebuilding of Jerusalem be stopped. And that's pretty much a summary of Ezra chapter 4. And there was all these other nations and people in the surrounding area. They saw we was building the temple and they caused us to stop, by getting order from the king. And they, stopped us with the military. Now we're going to hit Ezra chapter 5. Then the prophets, Haggai, the prophet, and Zechariah, the son of Edu, prophesied unto the Jews that were in Judah and Jerusalem in the name of Yahweh, God of Israel, even unto them. Then rose up Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and Jeshua, the son of Jozadak, and began to build the house of God, which is at Jerusalem. And with them were the prophets of Yahweh helping them. So Zerubbabel and Jeshua, they began rebuilding, Jerusalem. And also the other prophets that was helping them. And at that same time came unto them Tadnai, governor on this side of the river, and we're going to call this person Chef, and their companions, and said thus unto them, who have commanded you to build this house and to make up this wall? And we usually see this with a bunch of Edomites. They say us doing something. They say, who told you to do this? They got nothing to do with them. Then said we unto them after this manner, what are the names of the men that make this building? White people do that too. When they see us doing something, what's the first thing they would ask you? What's your name? People that see my live lessons, every time I tell them what this truth of the Bible about, that's when the first thing they ask me. They say, oh, okay, what's your name? I tell them my name, I don't care. It's Christians all over the world, so they not really getting no information on me. But what my name got to do with the message that I'm presenting? What my name got to do with the Bible? And that's white people. That's them trying to get any sort of information on you just to come up against you one way or another. But the eye of their God was upon the elders of the Jews, that they could not cause them to cease. So these other nations, they came to Zerubbabel, Jeshua, and their prophets, asking them who commanded you to build this house and to make this wall, and what's their name. Hey, but the Lord, they made them keep working. They didn't stop till the matter came to Darius, and they returned answer by letter concerning this matter. The copy of the letter that Tadnai, governor on the side of the river, and Sheph and his companions, and Aphar, which were on this side of the river, sent unto Darius the king. They sent a letter unto him, wherein was written thus, unto Darius the king, all peace. Be it known unto the king that we went into the province of Judea, to the house of the great God, which is builded with great stones, and timber is laid in the walls, and this work goeth fast on, and prospereth in their hands. Then asked we those elders, and said unto them thus, who commanded you to build this house and to make these walls? We asked them their names also to certify thee, that we may write these names of the men that were the chief of them. And yeah, they asked them what their names was and wrote them down. That's why anytime something going on, white people always trying to write a statement. Or let me write this down. What's your name? And that's really these other nations being nosy, not minding their business. They want to see what we got going on, like we see today. They want to see what we got going on, and they can't stand the sight of it when they see us doing something for ourselves. And thus they returned us, saying, we are the servants of Yahweh, God of heaven and earth, and built the house that was builded these many years ago, which a great king of Israel builded up and set up. Hey, so he commanded them in a smart way. Hey, we servants of the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, and we rebuilding the house that was built many years ago that a great king set up. I'm going to start telling these Edomites that. They ask me, what's my name? Hey, I'm going to say, I'm just a servant of the Lord. Because really, what the names got to do with anything? Yeah, so Ezra chapter 4 and, part of chapter 5, you see that rebuilding Jerusalem, all these other nations come up against us. They're trying to frustrate what we do. They're writing letters to the king, talking about we're a rebellious city. We're not going to pay taxes. We're not going to pay tribute to the king, that we'll take over that part of the city on the other side of the river if we build it up. And everybody writing accusations about us, and we see that today. They be writing letters to the government, to the mayor. They be writing letters to the police station. Anytime we doing something, they send a quick little text or a little letter. The next thing you know, the armed forces arriving to shut down what we got going on. So now we're going to go to Nehemiah. We're going to read chapter 2. And it came to pass in the month Nisan, in the 20th year of Artaxerxes the king, that wine was before him, and I took up the wine and gave it unto the king. Now I had not been before time sat in his presence. So Nehemiah gave the king some wine, and he was sad. But never before has he been sad. Wherefore the king said unto me, why is thy countenance sad, seeing thou art not sick? This is nothing else but sorrow of heart. Then I was very sore afraid, and said unto the king, let the king live forever. Why should not my countenance be sad, when the city, the place of my father's sepulchres, lie waste, and the gates thereof are consumed with fire? So Nehemiah said, why would I not be sad, if the city of my ancestors is destroyed and burnt to the ground? Then the king said unto me, for what dost thou make request? So I prayed to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, God of heaven, and I said unto the king, if it please the king, and if thy servant have found favor in thy sight, that thou wouldest send me into Judah, and to the city of my father's sepulchres, that I may build it. So king say, the king asked Nehemiah, what can I do for you to, help you feel better? And Nehemiah said, hey, if you don't mind, let me go into Judah and to rebuild the city of my ancestors. And the king said unto me, the queen also sitting by him, for how long shall thy journey be? And when wilt thou return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I sent him a time. Moreover, I said unto the king, if it please the king, let the letters be given me to the governors beyond the river. So Nehemiah told the king, hey, can you give me some letters? Pretty much a written statement that he could give to the governors that was over there by Judea, like saying, hey, I gave this man commandment, to rebuild the city. And I said unto the king, if it please the king, let the letters be given me to the governors beyond the river, that they may convey me over till I come into Judah. And the letter unto Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he might give me timber to make beams for the gates of the palace, which appertain to the house, and for the wall of the city, and for the house that I shall enter into. And the king granted me according to the good hand of my God upon me. So Nehemiah asked the king to also give a letter to Asaph, a keeper of the king's forest, so that Nehemiah could get timber from this forest to help him rebuild the city. Then I came to the governors beyond the river and gave them the king's letters, Now the king had sent captains to the army and horsemen with me. When Sanballat and Horonite and Tobiah, the servant, the Ammonite, heard of it, it grieved them exceedingly, that there was come a man to seek the welfare of the children of Israel. So I think it was King Artaxerxes. He's not only sent Nehemiah to Judea to rebuild the city, but the king sent with him his military leaders, and he sent horsemen with him to help him. And when these other nations of people heard it and saw it, a it grieved them exceedingly. That there was a man to seek the welfare of the children of Israel. So pretty much saying that these other nations, it cut them to their soul when they saw somebody else trying to help us out. Hey, and we see that in real life. When we doing something, let's say we get help really from anybody, or we get help from the governor, you know what I'm saying? Either open a business or do something for ourselves. Hey, when people see we got help, hey, they be grieved by it. Like, why are they helping the Negroes? Oh, what do the Negroes got going on? They got these people helping them, and it really just hurt them, and it's for no reason. It's because they the devil. At work, I had made a complaint to the ops manager, and my manager, he came to me. He was like, "Hey, Derek Allen wants to talk to you. He asked for you by name." Now he didn't have to say that, that he asked for you by name. He could have just said, "Hey, Derek Allen want to talk to you." And when he said that he asked for you by name, he had the look of concern. Like, I wonder why my boss is seeking to talk to this Negro, to this black man. I knew that's what was going through his head. He don't know that Derek Allen, he liked my character. He see that I stand up for stuff and I speak my mind. And that what was going on here. Derek Allen, he not the king. He's just the boss of my boss. And Derek helped me out a few times on some stuff. He knows I'm a good worker. And that's the same thing we got here. Nehemiah had favor in the sight of the king. So the king sent his army and his horsemen to help Nehemiah rebuild the city. And that's the same thing with my boss's boss. I got favor in his sight. And we see that a lot, that, when somebody trying to help us or do something for us, or they seeking our welfare, they question what's going on, they get scared. And I rose in the night, and I and some few men with me, neither told I any man what Yahweh had put in my heart to do at Jerusalem, neither was there any beast with me, save the beast that I rode upon. And I went out by night by the gate of the valley, even before the dragon well, and to the dung port, and viewed the walls of Jerusalem, which were broken down, and the gates thereof were consumed with fire. So Nehemiah said, that night he went to Jerusalem. He took some men with him, but he didn't tell anybody what the Lord put in his heart to do, which is to rebuild the city. He just took the men, and they took their horses, and they went to the city. Then I went to the gate at the top of the mountain and to the king's pool, but there was no place for the beast that was under me to pass. Then I went up in the night by the brook and viewed the wall and turned back and entered by the gate of the valley, and so returned. So pretty much the city, every part of it is destroyed. And the rulers knew whither I went or what I did. Neither had I as of yet told it to the Jews, nor to the priests, nor to the nobles, nor to the rulers, nor to the rest that did the work. So Nehemiah didn't really tell nobody where he went or what he was up to, but he was pretty much just scoping out the city. Then I said unto them, Ye see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lieth waste, and the gates thereof are burnt with fire. Come, let us build up the wall of Jerusalem, that we be no more reproach. So Nehemiah said, Hey, you see how disgraced we are for our city being destroyed? Let us build it up so we don't be disgraced no more. Then I told them of the hand of my God, which was good upon me, as also the king's words that he had spoken unto me. So then Nehemiah told them that the Lord put in his heart to rebuild the city, and that he got the okay from the king to rebuild the city. And they said, Let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hands for this good work. But when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, and Jeshum the Arabian heard of it, they laughed us to scorn and despised us and said, What is this thing that ye do? Will ye rebel against the king? So you got these other wicked nations, when they saw that the Israelites started rebuilding the city, they came and laughed at them and they despised it, meaning they hated the sight of what they was doing. And they pretty much laughed and said, "What y'all think y'all doing? So y'all just gonna go against the king's word, not knowing that the king gave them the okay to build the city." Hey, we see that a lot with these Edomites and these other people now. When they see us doing something, they laugh at it. Like, oh, that's not gonna prosper, that's not gonna work. But why are you worried about it? So let's continue. Then answered I them and said unto them, "The God of heaven, he will prosper us. Therefore we his servants will arise and build. But ye have no portion, nor right, nor memorial in Jerusalem." So, yep, that was pretty much a summary of Nehemiah chapter 2. That Nehemiah got favor inside of the king and got the okay from the king to rebuild Jerusalem. And when the other nations saw that the king sent his men with Nehemiah, they got grieved, meaning they was hurt. Like, why somebody helping the Negroes? Why somebody helping the Jews? Then once they started rebuilding the city, they laughed at them and despised them. They mocked them, saying, "What you doing? You just gonna rebel against the king?" And when we be out teaching, we kind of see that too. Like, everybody know what we doing. We wear the priestly robes, but regardless of what we wearing, we got the Bible in our hand. And sometimes other people, they walk by, they be laughing, but it's all good because we gonna laugh in the end. Now I'm gonna hit up Nehemiah. We gonna hit chapter 4. But it came to pass that when Sanballat heard that we builded the wall, he was wroth. Now we skip chapter 3. Now in chapter 2, they started rebuilding the wall. In chapter 4, the wall is built. So when Sanballat heard that we built the wall, he was wroth and took great indignation and mocked the Jews. So he was mad, he was full of wrath, and he pretty much talked trash about us. And he spake before his brethren, the army of Samaria, and said, "What do these feeble Jews? Will they fortify themselves?" So asking us, like, what they think they doing? They think they can build themselves up? Will they sacrifice? Will they make an end in a day? Will they revive the stones out of the heaps of the rubbish which are buried? So they just asking all the questions, wondering what we gonna do. And we see that a lot in America. Anytime we doing something for ourselves, either trying to rebuild a community, we trying to bring a sense of unity to our people. Hey, white people be mocking us. Hey, look at these Negroes. What they think they're gonna do? They think that's gonna work. Are they gonna do this? Are they gonna do this? They pretty much have a guessing game trying to figure out what we gonna do. Well, what's their next move? Anytime they see us doing something, it's all eyes on us. Then it's continued. Now Tobiah the Ammonite was by him, and he said, "Even that which they build, if a fox go up, he shall even break down their stone wall." So this was a damn hater. He said, if a fox go by their wall gonna fall. So pretty much saying that the wall wasn't built right, that the wall was weak. So just another hater. And people are always talking crap about what we doing. "Hear, O our God, for we are despised, and turn their reproach upon their own head, and give them for a prey in the land of captivity, and cover not their iniquity, and let not their sin be blotted out from before thee, for they have provoked thee to anger before the builders." Hey, so this was Nehemiah praying to the Lord, saying, we despise, and, turn a reproach on their own head. So the same disgrace, that we got, put it on them. Don't forgive them for their sins because they provoked us to anger, while we was building. So built we the wall, and all the wall was joined together unto the half thereof. For the people had a mind to work. Hey, so the workers was working hard. They was making progress. But it came to pass that when Sanballat and the Tobiah and the Arabians and the Ammonites and the Ashdodites heard that the walls of Jerusalem were made up and that the breaches began to be stopped, then they were very wroth. So he talked all that junk, talk about, oh, is they really going to build it up? Or what they going to do next after they build the wall? Well, if a fox go by the wall going to fall. All these nations of people got mad once they saw everything coming together. Hey, and that's what these Edomites do now. When we doing something, they'll laugh at us. But once they start to see the progress of it, once they start to see it being established and prospering, hey, they they get wrathful, they get real mad. Them demons in them get stirred up. Same thing here. All these people got demons getting stirred up in them. Now I keep saying all these other nations. Let me look for a little image real quick. But this is a table of nations that the Lord created to kind of get some understanding. We, being outlined in gold, the children of Israel, there's 12 tribes. The Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Right under us in red, you see the white man. That's Genesis 25 and 25. And it first came out red and hairy all over. And then you see the other nations of people. And remember, we keep seeing Ammonite. Ammonite is the Japanese that we see right here. So all these other nations of people, they are enemies. And they always hating on us. They always coming up against us. Same now as they did back in the ancient days. And again, they were very rough, meaning they was enraged when they saw our stuff coming together, and conspired, all of them, to come and to fight against Jerusalem and to hinder it. So it wasn't nothing else they could do at this point. They say, you know what, we're going to all come together and we're going to fight against them. Hey, that's like, Black Lives Matters. That's not of the Holy Spirit. But, when we did have the Black Lives Matter, parades and stuff, who came out there trying to fight against the protests and against the rallying? It was the KKK. They saw we was prospering. Everybody was coming out. We be stopping traffic. It'd be other white people out there with us. It'd be other nations of people out there. And then guess who come out? The KKK. They mad. They want to try to get everything shut down. They want to make stuff go violent. And we seeing it play out in the ancient days. So they want to come against us to fight, to hinder it. Nevertheless, we made our prayer unto Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai and set a watch against them day and night. So they kept building, and they set watchmen over the city to watch out for danger because of them. And Judah said, the strength of the bearers of burden is decayed, and there is much rubbish, so that we are not able to build the wall. And our adversary said, they should not know, neither see, till we come in the midst among them and slay them and cause the work to cease. So not only did these other nations conspire to fight the Jews, they said we're going to slay them so they can stop the work to cease. And what's the perfect example of this? Black Wall Street. We had a thriving black community. Schools, libraries, banks, hospitals, public transport systems, city buses, everything that you see in America. Black Wall Street had it. And who got mad? The damn white people. And they conspired, all of them together, and said, let us come and to fight against Black Wall Street to hinder it. And not only did they go to Black Wall Street to fight, what did they do? They came in the midst among them. If I'm correct, I might be wrong. I was going to say, didn't they come at night? But what did the white man do? They said they should not know, neither see, till we come in the midst among them. And we didn't know that the white man was going to shoot up and burn down Black Wall Street until they came. They just came out the blue to slay them and to cause the work to cease, to cause Black Wall Street to cease. Yeah, and that's what our people seem to forget. Yeah, we can come together, and white people, they say that we need to do better and try harder, but when we do, they get mad. They come up against us and pretty much shut down what we got functioning. Let's say if we had another Black Wall Street, they're going to do the same thing. In the case you ain't heard, they burnt the city, burned houses and buildings, and as we ran out of these burning buildings, they shot us dead in the street. Not only that, they took their little personal airplanes and firebombed the city from the sky, like a dang U.S. military airstrike. So they would do the same thing again that they saw us prospering. And Black Wall Street was a perfect example of the rebuilding of Jerusalem. You know, how the other nations hated the rebuilding of Jerusalem. They hated how Black Wall Street was thriving and functioning. And it came to pass that when the Jews which dwelt by them came, they said it to us 10 times, from all places whence ye shall return unto us, they will be upon you. So they pretty much threatened them 10 times, kept threatening what they gonna do. Hey, the white man will do that too. They'll tell you what they're gonna do. Or I'm gonna get this shut down. I'm gonna stop this, and it's a bunch of BS. But ultimately, everything we read in so far, how they're rebuilding the temple and the other nations are snitching on them, that's going on with us in this truth. Um, you got people that's snitching on GMS, and then the U.S. government, they got a website. It's a domestic terrorist watch page. You know, all the hate groups here in America, the KKK, the Proud Boys. But guess who else on there? Great Millstone on there. They on a nationwide terrorist hate group page. And GMS don't do nothing but be out there with Bibles. We commanded to go out there with no weapons. We don't even take a stick. It's just Bibles and our faith in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. And also, it's in the truth, they watching us. And as you see, it's always other people snitching on what we doing. And that's the same thing with us in this truth. And not so much for me, but in the other camps, especially GMS, a bigger group of brothers, when they be out teaching, preaching the word, the police be coming over there, people hating on them, people trying to get them shut down so they can't do their thing. And we're going to see this more and more as these prophecies progress. When we building the temple, represents us building the temple in the spirit. And we're not rebuilding physical Jerusalem, we're rebuilding the temple by gathering the people so that we can return to Jerusalem. So they're trying to frustrate the building by stopping the preaching of this word. Because Jerusalem is a people before it's a place. You can't have Jerusalem without the people being there. So they're trying to stop this gathering that we're trying to do. Trying to bring in people to the truth of the Bible and the testimony of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. These other nations trying to stop that gathering. That's why YouTube pages getting took down, videos getting took down, brothers getting strikes. We got to resort to other websites. They stopped the physical rebuilding of Jerusalem. Now they're stopping the spiritual rebuilding of Jerusalem by coming up against the spreading of this word. That's pretty much the same thing going on today. And I looked and rose up and said unto the nobles and to the rulers and to the rest of the people, be not ye afraid of them. Remember Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, which is great and terrible, and fight for your brethren, your sons and your daughters and your wives and your houses. And when we read verse 14 and say, remember the Lord, which is great and terrible, and fight for you and your brethren, this is the same faith that we go out on. When we go out there teaching, we know it be Edomites everywhere. It be polices and security guards everywhere. Hey, but we ain't worried about that. We know the Lord got us. And it came to pass when our enemies heard that it was done to us, and Yahweh had brought their counsel to naught, that we returned all of us to the wall, everyone to his work. So these other nations, they tried to, in a sneaky way, come up against us. Hey, but by the power of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Nehemiah and the other Israelites, they found out. For God had brought their counsel to naught. And it came to pass from that time forth that the half of my servants wrought in the work, and the other half of them held both the spears and the shields and the bows and the habergeons. Nehemiah was one of my favorite books. It was real interesting. So when they heard that these other nations was going to try to kill them while they was building the city, they all went back to the city, had the perfect faith in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai that he would fight for them. Half the men wrought in the work, meaning half the men was working on the city, but the other half, they held spears and shields and bows. So the other half was armed and strapped up for the defense, while the other half worked on the city. And the rulers were behind all the houses of Judah, they which builded on the wall, and they that bear burdens, with those that ladded. So I think this is the ones that was resting. Every one with one of his hands wrought in the work, and with the other hand held a weapon. So they that was building on the wall, they was working with one hand, but in the other hand, they was holding the weapon. That's like if you see me laying down brick and that mortar, that tar stuff that go in between the bricks, you see me doing that with one hand, but I got an axe in another hand, waiting for these other nations to roll up. Hey, we was hard back in the day. And for the most part, our people, they got soft these days. And coming back to this truth, you got to purge all the softness out of your body. Talking about the man of the Lord. We didn't have all these luxuries in this sense of comfortability and kicking our feet up. Back in the day, we was always on the edge. So I'm going to read this again. They which buildeth on the wall, and they that bear burdens, with those that ladded, every one with one of his hands wrought in the work, and with the other held a weapon. For the builders, every one had his sword girded by his side, and so builded. So the builders, they had their sword at their side, but they were still building. Builded with one hand, but had their weapon in the other hand. And he that sounded the trumpet was by me. And the dude who had the trumpet, he would play the trumpet after he saw danger coming. But now let's continue. And I said unto the nobles, and to the rulers, and to the rest of the people, the work is great and large, and we are separated upon the wall, one far from another. So they were spread out, working over the city. In what place, therefore, ye hear the sound of the trumpet, resort ye thither unto us. Our God shall fight for us. So Nehemiah said to the nobles and to the rulers and everybody that was building, hey, we separated all over building. So when you hear the trumpet, run to us, run this way, and Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai will fight for us. And Yahweh Shai and these other angels was really on standby because they had that faith. So we labored in the work, and half of them held the spears from the rising of the morning till the stars appeared. From sunrise to sundown, they builded. They was building, and they was strapped up in arms. Likewise, at the same time, I sent it to the people, that every one with his servant lodged within Jerusalem, that in the night, that they may be guard to us, and labor on the day. So yeah, some people, they'd sleep at night, so they'd be on guard in the day. And some people, they'd sleep through the day, so they could be on guard at night. So we was a warrior nation of people. So all this softness we got going on, we got to drop that. Summary of chapter 4. We was pretty much rebuilding the temple. These other nations said that they will come up against us to fight, to stop the building of the temple, and that they will slay us. Hey, but we built the temple anyway. And we had faith that the Lord was going to fight for us. We was building with one hand, and we had the sword in the other hand. And again, them building the temple and these different nations trying to frustrate it, that's what's going on now. We're trying to do this spiritual gathering to gather all the believers in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai and all these nations trying to come up against that. So now last chapter, Nehemiah chapter 6. Now it came to pass when Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem the Arabian and the rest of our enemies heard that I had builded the wall and that there was no breach left therein, though at that time I had not set up the doors upon the gates, that Sanballat and Geshem sent it to me, saying, Come, let us meet together in one of the villages in the plain of Ano. But they thought to do me mischief. They wrote Nehemiah and said, Hey, let us meet in the villages, in the wilderness. And they did that because they thought they was going to kill Nehemiah. And the Edomites do that today. They're your enemies. They don't like you, but they'll come like they're trying to be your friend. They say, hey, let's go here and have a talk and let's discuss a few things. Anybody try to do that with you, dang well not to go. So Nehemiah sent messengers unto them saying, I am doing a great work so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease whilst I leave it and come down to you? So Nehemiah said, yo, I'm doing a great work. Why would I stop this to come see you? Yet they sent it to me 4 times after this sort, and I answered them after the same manner. So they sent 4 more letters to Nehemiah, and Nehemiah replied the same thing 4 times. Then sent Sanballat his servant unto me, in like manner the 5th time with an open letter in his hand. So Sanballat sent his servant, and the letter it was written. It is reported among the heathen, Gashmu saith it, that thou and the Jews think to rebel, for which cause thou buildest the wall, that thou mayest be their king, according to these words. And thou hast also appointed the prophets to preach of thee at Jerusalem, saying, There is a king in Judah. And now shall it be reported to the king according to these words. Come now, therefore, and let us take counsel together. So Sanballat sent his servants with that accusation, saying that, it's said among the people that y'all trying to rebuild Jerusalem so that y'all can establish a king. And this was all a lie. Didn't nobody say none of this stuff that was written in the letter. For Jerusalem to try to establish a king while they was under, I think, King Darius or Artaxerxes, that would have been illegal. That would have been like them rebelling. Then I sent it to him saying, there are no such things done as thou sayest. Nehemiah said, ain't nobody said that mess, but thou findest them out of thy own heart. So Nehemiah told him, yo, you made that up with your own imagination. For they all made us afraid, saying, their hands shall be weakened from their work, that it be not done. So he wrote this letter saying that, like, oh, y'all rebuilding Jerusalem so that y'all can have a king and rebel against the king of the Medes and Persians. They said that in the letter to make the Jews afraid, like, oh, they think we're going to rebel against the king, so maybe we should slow down, but it didn't work. Now, therefore, Yahweh strengthened my hands. Afterward, I came into the house of Shemaiah, the son of Delaiah, the son of Mehetabel, who was shut up, and he said, let us meet together in the house of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, within the temple, and let us shut the doors of the temple, for they will come to slay thee. Yeah, in the night they will come to slay thee. So tell Nehemiah, let me go to the temple with you, because they gonna come slay you there. And Nehemiah said, should such a man as I flee? So Nehemiah said, you think I'm a run? And who is there that, being as I am, will go into the temple to save his life? And so Nehemiah asked them, who in the temple that I should go there? I will not go in. And lo, I perceive that God had not sent him. So this man came to Nehemiah like he had the word of the Lord, but Nehemiah perceived that the Lord had not sent him, but that he had pronounced this prophecy against me, for Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. So Sanballat and Tobiah, they hired this man to say, let me go into you with the temple and shut the doors of the temple. And he really wanted to take Nehemiah to the temple and shut the doors so that he could kill him in the temple. But he tried to make it seem like he was going for his protection. And that's why Nehemiah said, you think I'm a run? But who's in the temple that I should go anyway if there's danger really coming? So Nehemiah, through the Spirit, knew that these other nations had hired him. Therefore was he hired that I should be afraid and do so in sin, that they might have matter for an evil report, that they might reproach me. So what this means here is that the king gave Nehemiah the order to rebuild the temple. So they wanted to scare him into not building the temple, just so they could go to the king and say, look, Nehemiah is not building the temple. He's sinning against you. Because if Nehemiah would have stopped, it would have been an evil report. As the king tell you to do something back in the ancient day, you got to do it. These other nations really be all over the place when it comes to them trying to come up against us to stop what we're doing or to get us in trouble. My God, think thou upon Tobiah and Sanballat according to these their works, and on the prophetess Noadiah and the rest of the prophets that will have put me in fear. So the wall was finished in the 20th and 5th day of the month of Elul, and 52 days. And it came to pass that when all our enemies heard thereof, and all the heathen that were about us saw these things, they were much cast down in their own eyes, for they perceived that this work was wrought of our God. So it took them 52 days to rebuild Jerusalem, to rebuild the temple, and it came to pass that when all the enemies saw it, they was hurt. They was hurt to their soul, because they knew Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai had helped them get this temple done, because there was no way that they really should have got it done with all the trouble they had in rebuilding it. So yeah, after all that these other nations did to stop Nehemiah from rebuilding the temple, going all the way back to the book of Ezra, now we made it to the book of Nehemiah. Years later, the temple was finally built, and these other nations was cast down in their own eyes, meaning they looked down at the ground like they was hurt to the core, because they knew the Lord built it. And that's what we coming into now. We in a spiritual gathering now. We trying to bring in all the believers. And as the days continue, these other nations really going to try to come up against us to stop the gathering of the people. And that's why, me and other brothers, we make lessons breaking down the Bible. You got other people on the other hand, they making lessons pretty much trying to say, yo, what we saying is wrong. They trying to say we fear mongering, is racist, God loves everybody. This is pretty much just an overview showing how damn nosy these other nations are. Anytime we in captivity, we got a bunch of spectators. It's all eyes on us. Like we such a low people. Why everybody watching us and concerned with what we doing? And then how Nehemiah, how they had to work, with one hand and they had the weapons in the other hand. Hey, we be damn near having to do that. Like, we got something going on. We focus on our work, but we looking over our shoulders. We looking behind us to make sure ain't nobody ain't trying nothing funny. That's why, I do my live lessons when I be out. I'm always looking around. So I make sure ain't nobody up to nothing. And that's a shame because, white people, when they got a garage sale or a car wash or they sell a lemonade, like they be focused on what they doing. They be having a good time with each other. They ain't got to look over their shoulder. They ain't got to look behind them. But we do. And then, we so low of a people that if y'all so high above us, why y'all trying to stop what we doing? Why y'all trying to come up against us? And then another point that I want to go back to, so we come to Ezra chapter 4, verse 14. It reads, "Now because we have maintenance from the king's palace, and it was not meet for us to see the king's dishonor, therefore have we sent and certified the king, that search may be made in the book of the records of thy fathers. So shalt thou find in the book of the records, and know that the city is a rebellious city, and hurtful unto the kings and provinces, and that they have moved sedition within the same of old time, for which cause was the city destroyed." Pretty much saying that Jerusalem was a rebellious city and it was hurtful unto the other kings, and that Jerusalem rebelled against these kings, and that's why Jerusalem was destroyed, which is false. Jerusalem was destroyed because the Lord sent Babylon to destroy Jerusalem for being disobedient. And when you really look into this is like today. Because what did they say? That the search may be made in the book of the records of thy fathers. So this is pretty much like a background check. And that's what these Edomites always want to do. Anytime they want to try to build a case against you or get something on you, they want to go do a background check. Like, okay, oh, you got fired from a job back in the day. Oh, he's lazy. Where you getting your money from? Or really anything stupid. Or you got caught stealing when you was 13. Or you got expelled from school when you was 12. And it's really stupid. That's one of the white man's top weapons against us. When they want to stop us from doing something, they go do a background check. And then we go back to Ezra at the end of chapter 4, when the king said, "Give ye now commandment to cause the man to cease, and that the city be not builded until another commandment be given from me." Then we go on verse 23. "Now when a copy of the king's letter was read before Rehum and Shimshai the scribe and their companions, they went up in haste to Jerusalem unto the Jews, and made them to cease by force and power." So this when they took their military to stop the building of the temple. And that's what America's going to do. She's going to send her military to stop this spiritual gathering that's happening. And that's really what the Great Tribulation and Jacob's trouble, a time so great, such as never was before, that's what this is about. They just trying to stop this spiritual gathering. They trying to stop us from bringing in believers into this truth. Because once the number of the Lord's believers is sealed, the Lord is going to return and get his people. And to stop the Lord from returning and getting his people, they want to stop this gathering so that number of believers can never be reached. By taking the videos down, they're going to send a military, martial law, the FEMA troops, the martial law troops. They're going to toss us in these FEMA death camps to try to stop this word from being spread. They're going to kill us, be exterminating us. And then they don't know where every believer is. But us that's teaching and making our body a living sacrifice, they know who we are and they know where we at and they know what we look like. And that's cool. But the other believers, they don't know. So in attempts to get the believers, they're going to come after the whole nation of Israel in America. So every Negro, Haitian, Dominican, Cuban, Mexican, Native American, everybody on this list, they're going to come after all of us and try to exterminate us to try to stop this gathering. And then we saw how the end of Nehemiah chapter 6, how the temple was still built and everybody was hurt to their soul, like they had their head down because they knew that the Lord aided them to get it done. this is how it's going to play out in the end. The military, they can try to assassinate us, lock us up in these FEMA death camps to stop this spiritual gathering. But by the time they come after us, hey, the spiritual gathering going to already be done. The number of the Lord's believers is already going to be sealed. And that's really what this is all about. And we wanted to read this to show that they sent the military to stop the building of the temple, but it was still built. Well, the temple is being built now. It's being built by the gathering of the Lord's people that's going to receive salvation, because we are the temple. Because the temple is a people before it's a place. Because how you going to have a temple but nobody in it? Well, the people are the temple. Because even with no temple, we can still serve the Lord and do his work really anywhere. And how the king sent the letter to command them to stop building the temple. So it was law that they had to stop building the temple. And if they would have kept building it, then it would have been illegal. So when the government declares something to keep their law, they send the military. So this is Jacob's trouble. They're going to send the military to stop the gathering of the people. And that's why in Real Talk 5, we said that it's going to be illegal to serve Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. Because in serving him, you're going to do the work to do these lessons to gather the believers. And it's going to be illegal for us to do the work of the Lord, to gather the believers. So Real Talk 5 was showing that it's going to be illegal to serve the Lord. And Real Talk 6 was showing that they're going to actually come up against us physically to stop this gathering. And that goes into what we talked about in Real Talk 1, 2, and 3. So them coming up against us, it's not going to just be out the blue. There's a build-up to it. And the build-up is they see us praising Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. They see, in our faith, we can't be broken. They see we not going to stop. They see the prophecies coming to pass. They see we being built up while they seek it lower. And them making it illegal, they still not going to stop the gathering process. That's going to morph into Jacob's trouble, that they're going to send a military to cause us to cease by force and power. So they're going to send their military to physically stop us. And that's still not going to stop us. They're going to come up against us physically. And that's the time that we're coming into. But yeah, that's just showing how nosy these other nations are. They came up against our ancestors for building the temple. They're going to come up against us now. And then even in the spirit, a lot of us, we've been having great spiritual battles. It seems like the spirits of other people, they get aroused when we come around, and they just want to bring us down somehow. So, don't let these wicked demons bring us down. Stay in the truth and keep serving Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai the best we can, because time is short and we almost out of here. So until next time, shalom.